A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to some more Super Foam Flying. As you probably know by now, there's lots of blasters that I've tested out. Lots of them are old, lots of them are new, some in between, but this one is just one of those rare examples where I get to try out something that does come from a lineup that is no longer existent. Case in point, the Dart Tag line. And if you basically could see in the background there's the Eliminator in orange. So, that basically comes from the 2005 edition of the Dart Tag line, whereas this is part of the 2011 Dart Tag line, Dart Tag 2.0, as I would most likely refer to it. But it's also interesting to note that, aside from there being two different lineups of Dart Tag between 2005 and 2011, Nerf had actually had plans to create a third Dart Tag lineup, and it probably would have been a thing in 2018. But the thing is, that's no longer a thing. It's practically non-existent now, almost like a fad. But looking back at the Dart Tag line, it certainly did hold a bit of a revolutionary tactic on its own part, where you did get to have a whole different kind of dart and a whole different lineup of blasters from two different generations worth of Dart Tag in it of itself. Of all of them, I'd have to say in the 2011 edition, I've had almost all of them, but the Speedload 6 was unfortunately one that I could not get my hands on. However, I now do have my hands on one. And so, I'm more than glad to finally get my hands on something like this. And with everything that's been considered so far when it comes to discussing the history of Dart Tag so far, because if there really is going to be a Dart Tag 3.0 at some point, then Nerf pretty much has to be on their A game here, because it's been such a long time now since we had basically gotten ourselves Dart Tag related stuff. And just to know the fact that there's been so much going on in Nerf's lifespan, new lineups have been made, new blasters have come out, and a lot of different ideas based on design, functionality, color, etc. Or even dart type, because this is a lineup that used to use darts that are lined with Velcro on the tips of them, which are designed so that they can stick to Velcro style vests, which was a big deal as part of the Dart Tag tradition. The Speedload 6, of course, is actually able to fire elite darts. And it's as simple as utilizing the inline clip mounted on the side by simply going like so. This can hold 6, which is pretty much part of the ergo to its name, Speedload 6. In any case though, I'd say that this is a pretty decent blaster. Definitely one that has been dated, because for well over 10 years, being that that was the last ever gap that had happened within the Dart Tag 2.0 lineup. Although of course, in 2013 was when they decided to release some more Dart Tag related stuff. The Stingers, which of course eventually were made into the Elite Nano Fire Blaster. Of course, I've talked a bit about that in its own review up on my channel. But the Speedload 6, I feel like it's more or less a combination of what we've seen from more recent blasters today, especially like the Rival line. If you could basically see from this blaster here, a recoloring of the Chronos, which I've simply referred to as the Traveler, which came from a 2022 trio of Chronos reskins, then well, you'd probably know by now that that's a thing that Nerf has been doing for a while. But just get to know the fact, this compared to this, it's a blaster that has a top style prime handle, and it does of course have the combination of an inline clip as well as a somewhat sleek profile, especially when looking at it from up front. So you could really look at it in many other ways. So, do I necessarily consider this to be better than the likes of most blasters like this? I'm not so sure myself. But we also cannot forget that one other detail is pretty much there as well. But unfortunately, since the dart has just in fact jammed, well, yeah. I can't seem to fix it. So I guess that just concludes my review on the Speedload 6 entirely. Just when I was about to highlight that it had slam fire built into it, unlike the Chronos, and all of its reskins that have come out so far. Well, just like what I've discovered with other blasters, they apparently jam. And the Dart Tag blasters are in fact known to jam like this, with blasters and darts of all sorts. And so, by all means, if you want to pick yourself up a Speedload 6, go run on ahead. So, I guess I don't feel glad about this one anymore. But if you want to see more go down on my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side. Actually, nah, I just fixed it, and now you get to see this in action, pretty much. Okay, this time for real.